That's right. A lot of folks have outdoor events this weekend. Not looking too bad Saturday and Sunday. Memorial Day Monday, still a little bit iffy. Really depends on just how far north and how far south two areas of wet weather come towards Hampton Roads. We'll time it all out here with Futurecast. First, we'll start off with a look at the radar, and we are sweeping clear. So this evening looking like a beautiful evening with mainly clear skies. Notice those showers and thunderstorms have been mainly off towards the south and west of us. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and I expect the radar will look very similar to this over the next couple of days, with most chances for those showers and thunderstorms across central Virginia, North Carolina. Could see one or two drift into western parts of Hampton Roads, and Futurecast does a good job bearing that out. Through the rest of the evening, southerly winds continuing to bring in a little more heat and a little more humidity as we've seen today, but mainly clear to maybe partly cloudy skies through the rest of the evening with temperatures in the 70s. And as we start the day tomorrow, upper 60s to low 70s, southerly winds continuing, and into the afternoon we'll see a chance of an isolated shower or thunderstorm. Notice the best chances are off towards the west of Hampton Roads, back towards the Raleigh-Durham area, Charlottesville, places like that. We could see one or two here locally as we go through the afternoon, and maybe a little better chance into the evening as a weak system passes through. We'll put those odds tomorrow at around 20%, and then as we get into the afternoon and evening, northern areas maybe a 30 to 40% chance of a few isolated showers and storms as that system passes by off towards the north. Sunday, very similar, temperatures starting out in the 70s, and as we go through the day, once again, those temperatures climbing into the upper 80s with a chance of a shower or thunderstorm, especially off towards the west. Now, over the last few days, we've been talking about this area of low pressure over the Yucatan Peninsula and how it would likely become our first named storm of the year, and it has done so. It is now subtropical storm Alberto with winds of 40 miles per hour. Right now it's stationary as the storm has drifted here just east of the Yucatan Peninsula. It's about 60 miles south of Cozumel, Mexico. It is expected to move through the Gulf of Mexico and strengthen quite a bit with winds of 60 to 65 miles per hour as we get into Monday morning, and then landfall somewhere here, say between New Orleans and Pensacola, Florida, most likely around Mobile. That would be early in the morning on Tuesday. With a little bit of a slower system, we're likely not going to see much in the way of the showers from this as we get into Saturday and Sunday. But by Monday, with the storm coming ashore, some of that eastern edge of the rain could make its way towards Hampton Roads. Of course, the farther south you live, the better chances of seeing some of those showers. And if you're driving through the deep south, we are looking at quite a bit of rain over the next few days. So what is the difference between a tropical system and a subtropical storm? Well, it's part tropical and part non-tropical. And what that basically means is a subtropical system has the strongest winds and the heaviest rain far from the center, mainly off towards the north and east. And that's why it's a subtropical system. Clear skies outside right now, temperature of 86 degrees, winds out of the south-southwest at 13 miles per hour. Tonight down to 70 degrees, tomorrow 88 with an isolated thunderstorm possible. Again, the best chances off towards the west. Same thing on Sunday. And then Monday, we've lowered those rain chances just a hair down to 50%, but the best chances for those showers will be across the southern portions of the area, and then temperatures in the low to mid 80s through the rest of the week.